Welcome everyone to the top 4 of the Mississippi Valley Regional Championship. I am Kyle Sucevich, might know me better as Pooka, and we have an interesting Garbodor versus Blastoise matchup. Andrew Krekeler versus Dan Richard. I believe the match is about to start, so let's just cut right over. We have a mulligan from Andrew. He's going to show a handful of water energy and such. And Dan will get an extra card for the mulligan. So for those of you who don't play Pokemon, or if you're just watching this stream randomly for the first time, this is it's a card game, obviously, but both players start off by drawing 7 cards, and then if you have a basic Pokemon, you put it face down, and that will be your active Pokemon, the one that you can attack with. Now, if you don't have a basic Pokemon in your opening hand, you have to show your opponent that you don't have a basic, and then you shuffle in and draw a fresh hand of 7 cards, and then your opponent gets to draw 1 extra card for your mulligan. And then you have 6 prize cards out there. The object of the game is to take all 6 of those prize cards. You get 1 for each Pokemon you knock out. And Andrew is going to be going first. You can see the Super Scoop Up in his hand, so we know he plays those, and 2 Trebushes from Dan. So we have Mewtwo starting off for Andrew. And, a pass. So he does not have anything on his first turn. No energy. No supporters, nothing. He's got Super Scoop Up, Catcher, Energy Retrieval, yeah, nothing. Dan, on the other hand, he's got a Charon, he's got 2 Trebushes out here already, he's got a Rescue Scarf on one of them. And I don't think he has anything either, so he's going to pass. And Andrew top decks an N. Okay, so that is a beautiful top deck for Andrew. Going to be able to actually do something. A Juniper would have been devastating to have to discard all that stuff. And there we go. There's an N. Both players will shuffle in and draw a card for each prize they have, which is 6 at this point in the game. This is a very complex matchup, honestly. It depends on if Andrew plays Tool Scrapper. Now, what's going to happen in this matchup is Dan uses Garbodor. The ability, we saw it in the previous match, it's called Garbotoxin. If you have a Pokemon tool attached to your Garbodor, like that Rescue Scarf that Dan has there, then all abilities are shut off. And that means that Andrew's Blastoise will be shut off, as the Deluge ability allows you to just keep attaching water energy from your hand. Normally you're limited to 1 energy attachment every turn, but Deluge allows you to break that rule. But when Garbodor is in play, that gets shut off, and you don't have to worry about that anymore. Now Andrew missed an energy drop there, but he did play a Tropical Beach. It's a stadium card that allows you to draw until you have 7 cards in your hand, and that ends your turn. But it's a nice card that just lets you set up. It's very good in these slow decks like Blastoise, where you need the extra cards to get everything going. It'll be Dan's turn. He plays a Computer Search, and he's going to go for a Landorus EX. Now this might seem very strange to you, that someone would go for Landorus against a water deck. Now, Landorus, of course, is weak to water, so it's going to hit for ×2. Basically, whenever someone gets a Keldeo in play with 3 energy, you're going to get knocked out. But the reason he can do this is because he knows he has Garbodor. He can shut off the Deluge, and when you can only attach 1 energy per turn, Landorus is actually pretty strong, just hitting for 30 and 30 every turn. Now we saw a switch from Dan, so that allowed him to use Landorus EX's Hammerhead, and now we see a Catcher from Andrew. One of the things we have to look out for is how many switches Dan plays. I mean, he plays 4 in the deck that he's given, but he has to make sure not to run out of them. Otherwise, Garbodor is stuck there. It has a 3 retreat cost, and you cannot retreat him very easily. We have a Skyla from Andrew. Also, a nice thing was that Garbodor shuts off Squirtle's, I don't even know what the ability is called, man, but it prevents bench damage to itself. That's one of the only abilities that I never actually looked to read the name, but yeah, it shuts off that ability, so he can still hit that for 30 damage. Andrew here, he's going to Skyla, which allows him to search for any trainer. We'll see which one he wants to get. He's taking a good long look at his deck to see what's in his prize cards. And it looks like he's going to go right for computer search. And, oh, this could be a big move, actually. Now, I do know that Andrew plays double colorless in his deck. At least one. So what he could do here is... well, actually, I think he's attached this turn. So he's just going to Tropical Beach. But next turn, he could get... And, oh, Dan Top takes a switch there. He could get a DCE, which would provide 2 more energy, and then X-Ball the Garbodor for a knockout. And then if he could get a turn where the Garbodor is not in play, he can end up winning. Here we have an N. This is going to be a big turn. The Squirtle's going to get knocked out. Now, Andrew, he could have Skylit for an Ultra Ball or something to get Blastoise into play. But that's actually a bad idea in this matchup if you don't play Tool Scrapper. And I'm going to assume that Andrew does not. Most Blastoise Keldeo decks just do not play Tool Scrapper because, hey, who plays Garbodor, right? And if you're not facing Garbodor, it's a worthless card in the deck. But, hey, someone's using Garbodor. So this is where not running Tool Scrapper bites you. You know, you're not going to be able to use your abilities at all, but you don't want to put Blastoise in play, otherwise it just gets catchered out. And then it's stuck there. It has a gigantic retreat cost. And all this the Landorus player is going to do is do 30 and 32 bench Pokemon and slowly pick away at you. And then eventually you're just going to die. And all you can do is sit there and watch. And so Dan will draw the first prize here. He's going to knock out that Squirtle with Hammerhead. And how will Andrew respond? There's a Mewtwo down for Dan. Something that I did not mention is that Dan actually had a problem with his deck list. The problem is that he didn't write down double colorless energy on his deck list, which means all he has is fighting energy. It looks like we're getting some emergency water here. But all he has is fighting. He does not have double colorless in his deck. He didn't write them on his deck list. So he cannot double colorless on the Mewtwo at any point in this game.
If you haven't started yet, you're in the Master Division for BG, please do so.
That's going to be huge at some point. I mean, in a Mewtwo War, just being able to hit the extra damage on a Keldeo. So, I mean, it's just fighting energy. He's just going to be one energy attachment at a time. And we'll see if he can actually pull this off. And yes, somehow he won top 32, top 16, top 8. No double colorless energy in his deck. He had replaced them with basic fighting energy. And he's here in the top 4 now, and he's in a good position. He's just showing you don't need double colorless when you have Garbodor and Landorus. Now, you got to think, does Andrew know? Does Andrew know that his opponent doesn't play DCE? If he does, that might cause him to play much differently. If he doesn't, then he might be scared of like a DCE at some point. And now we see Andrew just actually attaches to his benched Mewtwo there instead of just going for an X-Ball. I guess that's not bad because you're going to be able to just X-Ball this turn. I guess it'll do 80. I'm not too sure why he didn't do that, but it's not a big deal. And now, let's see, we see an N out of Dan, so he's going to draw 5 cards. Andrew will draw 6. I don't know what's with people messing up their deck lists here at regional championships. You know, we had Matt Albus at the Indiana regional where he just didn't write down his Hydreigon Lion in his deck, and he just had to play a straight Darkrai deck instead, but this is just a lesson to all of you. When you go to a tournament, take your deck list seriously. It's very important to fill everything out correctly, otherwise this can happen. Alright, so we have a Hammerhead, 30 and 30 to Mewtwo. And this is just going to be a slow, painful death for Andrew, I think. If he doesn't play Tool Scrapper, this is just a horrendous matchup. This is the best Garbodor matchup we have in the format. I mean, they can only attach once per turn. They don't usually play cards like Switch because Russian makes it so you don't have to play a Switch. There's just so many things where it's basically just set up to lose to Garbodor because everything is so reliant on its abilities, and it doesn't need Tool Scrappers because there's no magic numbers you need to avoid with Tool Scrapper. And yeah, I don't know. It's just they only get to attach once per turn, and all their attacks are really expensive. It's not a good combo. And alright, so we have a computer search here. He's grabbing a DCE, he's just going to put it on his active Mewtwo. So Andrew does play one double colorless energy in his deck. And he's catching up that Garbodor. And this is going to be the one risk he's going to take. He's going to knock out that Garbodor. And he's going to hope that he can get one turn where Dan does not have a tool on the Garbodor, but nope, he's not going to get it. And very smart of Dan if he was just holding on to the EXP share. We see a Land's Judgment for 80. That's going to knock out that Mewtwo, and you got to think this game is just completely over at this point. That was kind of Andrew's all in there. He took out the Garbodor, but now it's still there. And really, he's got nothing left. He can only attach one energy at a time. And he's just going to be run over by Landorus and Mewtwo. Because there's just too much energy for Dan in play already. We do see, let's see. One prize was taken for Andrew. And then we got two taken for Dan. Try to be better at updating this thing. And we see another catcher on the Garbodor. So we're trying this strategy again where he's going to try to knock out Garbodor. Now, if Dan has a switch here, this game's over, and he top decks a switch. So, pretty good. That's the second time he's done that this game. Where Andrew just catchered out the Garbodor, and he just flips over a switch from the top of his deck. It's a good skill to have. And all right, Andrew's just going to scoop game one, and Dan Rich is going to take a very, very fast first game here in the top four. It's a pretty straightforward matchup, you know. There's a couple opportunities for Andrew to do something about it, but every time, Dan just had the answer to it, and that is game number one. This is why Garbodor is doing so well. It just stops Blastoise dead in his tracks. It's a pretty straightforward matchup, and even though Dan doesn't even have double colorless in his deck, he doesn't need it. He's just attacking with Landorus and then manually attaching to Mewtwo, and apparently that's enough. So that's a very frustrating first game for Andrew. You got to think, I mean, that was as bad as it could go. He got dominated in every aspect of the game. He tried to buy a turn, you know, catch out the Garbodor and knock it out. See if Dan didn't have a tool or something, so that he could get a turn to Deluge and drop all of his energy down, but he didn't even have that. Dan had the switch every time to get out of the catcher, and that is just it. Nothing you can do about it. If the Garbodor deck runs well, doesn't miss any switches or anything like that, it's going to win pretty much every time. If the Blastoise deck doesn't play Tool Scrapper, which Andrew does not. So we're going to shuffle up here for game two. Now both these guys are kind of younger players. I believe Dan aged up into the Masters not that long ago. Andrew had a lot of success in the seniors and juniors division, but once he hit Masters, he really hasn't had as much success. So this is really a big opportunity for both these players to make a name for themselves. We do have a mulligan again from Andrew this game. He did it twice in the first game. So Dan will get an extra card here. But yeah, the trend we've been seeing here is that younger players have been doing really well. Newer players have been doing really well. Maybe that's just a sign of the format. Maybe just these young guys are hungrier. They've spent more time playtesting. They figured out the format a lot better than us old people. But whatever the reason is, that's been the trend recently. And no exception today. So if you're Andrew, you really just got to hope for Dan not to draw much. Or maybe if you can start with a Mewtwo and target down the Trubbishes early on, that's going to be your best bet. And let's see. We have a Landorus and a Squirtle. That's not a Mewtwo. We put water on the Squirtle and ends. I guess you could. I guess you might have to retreat it at some point, so you're just going to put the water on there. You might want to save the attachment for something else. Maybe like attached to Mewtwo, who knows. If you can just take 3 turns to manually power up a Keldeo, I guess that would probably be good. But he uses his first attachment on the Squirtle. He does have another Squirtle. I'm gonna go ahead and put that down. And a Keldeo, which he really doesn't want to put down because that can get hit by a 30, or can get hit by Hammerhead for 30, and you don't want that. So no reason to put that down. I would just pass if I were Andrew. No reason to give your opponent another target to hit for 30 damage, especially when you're not even going to attach energy to it. But he's gonna retreat his Squirtle and pass. Interesting that he didn't just decide to rush in. You know, Garbodor's not out there yet. He can still do that. So maybe he's just a little nervous. Maybe he's just frustrated with the matchup, with the situation. I'm not sure what it is, but I definitely don't think you should retreat there. You should just rush in. Keep the energy on Squirtle. Who knows when that's going to be handy. But we do have a, let's see. We have a Skyla. We have a Rare Candy. We have a Water. So he could get a Blastoise out, but then he won't be able to attack. He won't have enough cards to do that. Unless he plays Heavy Ball, then he could do it. The Heavy Ball would allow him to search for the Blastoise, but most Blastoise decks don't play Heavy Ball, they just play Ultra Ball, and then a Level Ball to search for Squirtle. So I wonder what he's going to go for this turn. It was a complicated decision, because you know Garbodor can just come out next turn with a tool, and then you just get knocked out, or your abilities get knocked out. And you're stuck there, only attaching 1 energy per turn. Landorus can just manually attach and then power up for Land's Judgment and knock out your Keldeo, and it's just not pretty. Now, Danny did not play a supporter the first turn. He just attached to Landorus, benched the Trubbish, and passed. So his hand might be really bad, and from what I can see, it is. There's a lot of fighting energy in there. Andrew's pointing to the camera. I'm not sure what he's saying. There must be something prized. He's just going to take Ultra Ball. He's going to discard the Retrieval and the Water. And he's going to get a Blastoise out. I don't know how much I like this, because you're not even going to be able to attach this turn. You can't play that Juniper because you already played the Skyla. So you're just going to grab a Blastoise. You might as well just hold on to the Ultra Ball and pass. You know, you can Skyla for it, but just pass. And then get your energy attachment for the turn. But he's deciding to go with this. He's just going to pass. Dan does top deck an Ultra Ball. Does he have the tool to go with it? If he does not get Garbodor out this play, or this turn, he's going to be in some trouble. It's going to be pretty easy for Andrew to go Rare Candy, Blastoise, Juniper. And then if he can just draw 3 energy, he can Secret Sword for the knockout, and he'll be in a tremendous advantage. Let's see, we do have Ultra Ball. Does Dan have the tool? Doesn't look like it. And he's just going to Hammerhead for 30. So this is a big opportunity for Andrew. If he can get enough energy in play. Here we go, Rare Candy Blastoise. Juniper. He needs 3 water this turn, and this would be a game changer. If not, he's going to be in some trouble. There's 2 water. Is that a computer search? I think so. So he'll have just enough. So we will see a Secret Sword this turn. It's going to be big. It's going to computer search. It's going to discard a Super Scoop Up. This is kind of dangerous. But then again, you know Dan's hand is really bad. The reason it's dangerous is Super Scoop Up's really going to be your only way to retreat Blastoise in this matchup. If they get a Garbodor out, otherwise they can just catch her up Blastoise and it's stuck there. It's got a gigantic retreat cost. Blastoise decks don't play Switch. You know, this one doesn't play Tool Scrapper. So Super Scoop Up was his way of getting that out of the active spot and preventing that kind of a play. and he just discarded one. He might have needed to. I'm not sure what else is in his hand, but just something to keep in mind. And he shows his opponent what he gets. Don't need to do that, just for future reference, but he's going to get an energy retrieval. Get back 2 water energy. And this has got to be scary for Dan. It's going to be turn 3 Secret Sword, but still a painful one. And there we go. Andrew is going to take first 2 prizes here. And, you know, we've seen Dan as just a horrendous hand. He's got Ultra Ball, that's about it. He has not played a supporter yet. This is an unfortunate part of the game. You can just draw a dead hand and not be able to do anything. So he's definitely going to play Ultra Ball this turn. But what is he going to take? He's going to discard a random upside down card and a fighting energy. Looks like he's going to put down Terrakion with a fighting. He's going to Ultra Ball. He's going to discard another Ultra Ball and a fighting. See what he takes. He might take another Trubbish here. And that's exactly what he's going to go for. And all he can do is pass this turn. Now he's going to go for the Terrakion. The problem with that is that it's just 1 more energy away from Keldeo being able to Secret Sword it for a knockout. So that's kind of painful. If I'm Andrew here, I am just using Deluge right now to power up my Blastoise to eliminate that option of, you know, Blastoise getting stuck, but instead he's going to catch out Terrakion. I don't like this play very much. But there is 60 on the Keldeo already. I guess there could be a fluke double plus power play. I could knock him out with Retaliate. He doesn't want to take that chance, but if he's got extra energy, he should definitely attach them to Blastoise right now to prevent the play where Dan gets Garbodor out with a tool and then catches that out and it's stuck. I don't know what's Andrew going to do. He's got a Bianca in his hand. He's got a water. He's going to Deluge onto Blastoise. All right, I like that. He's going to draw 5 with Bianca. And then Secret Sword for the knockout. Go down to 3 prizes. Dan draws a Heavy Ball, but that's not really going to get him anything at this point. Oh, Juniper. Okay, never mind. I guess that's what he drew. So he's going to Heavy Ball for the Garbodor, Juniper for 7 fresh cards, and here we go. This could be the start of a comeback. He needs a tool this turn and probably a catcher to bring out the Blastoise and buy some time. So I see the catcher. Does he have a tool? I don't see it. That's just going to be another devastating turn for Dan, as he just cannot get anything going for himself. Puts down the Landorus, and he's going to pass. So this could be a 6-0 victory for Andrew. You know, if he's going to win, it's going to be like this. He's just got to hope that Dan just doesn't draw anything the whole time. We see a Skyla. See what he goes for. He might go for a catcher to take out the Garbodor. If you're going to take out something here, you would take out the Garbodor. I guess he could take out the Landorus, go down to 1 prize. He also has a Super Scoop Up, so he's going to go ahead and play it right now. Since there's no tool on that Garbodor. So he's going to pick up his Keldeo and actually just shove up Blastoise. All right, this is actually really neat. He's going to Deluge to Blastoise. He's going to take away the option of his Blastoise being catchered out. Then he can catcher up either Landorus or Landorus or Garbodor. Knock either of those out with Hydro Pump. So this is a really neat play. Very, very clever. This is what Super Scoop Up provides. He's just going to take out the Landorus. And this might be game. There's really nothing Dan can do at this point. I mean, he could play an N, put Andrew on 1 card, but very, very clever with the Blastoise play there. I like that. And here we go. Here's N. I mean, this is 6-1 at this point, so Andrew's only going to get 1 card. Dan's going to get 6. He catches out the Mewtwo. Honestly, it's just All Andrew needs is one more energy to retreat, and then he can probably just Hydro Pump the game. It is doing 100 damage. It's going to knock out everything in Dan's deck except for a Mewtwo. So unless he gets a Mewtwo down, and actually he scoops up his cards. So he didn't even wait to see if Andrew had the energy to retreat, but alright, there's game number 2. This series is going by very quickly. Andrew's going to take that one. Dan just did not draw anything the entire game. And that's got to be Andrew's hope for this series. He's got to hope that that happens one more time. I've seen it happen before many, many times, so I would not rule anything out. So will we see the Garbodor deck advance to the finals? Or will we see Andrew with the Blastoise deck overcome the odds and take down its worst enemy, a giant pile of garbage? It stinks up the place, prevents you from using your stuff. It's like that guy who hasn't showered for a week, but he's still hanging out on your couch. He ruined it, you know? You're not going to be able to sit on that couch again. It's so gross. You gotta wash it or something. Alright, so looks like these guys are shuffling up. Andrew's just gonna take the time to shuffle once again. And he's gonna let Dan set up. He does get a basic. Set out his 6 prizes. Dan did lose the second game, so he will be able to go first in the third game. Just gonna go shuffling once again. It's gonna be interesting to see what these guys start with. Of course, Dan would probably prefer to start with a Landorus in this matchup, as weird as that sounds. He wants to get a couple Trubishes out as soon as possible. Start with a Mewtwo is okay, not the end of the world. Starting with Terrakin is probably your worst starter. Okay, so we're going to see Andrew's going to finally draw his 7 cards here. And we'll get this third and final game underway. There is a lot on the line here. You know, the winner gets to go to the finals. You get 2 buys at the National Championships if you're in the finals. So that is a huge milestone to hit. You get a bunch of championship points, and of course the winner of the tournament gets a fully paid trip to the National Championship. So this is a huge match here, a huge third game, and wow, Dan just attaches to fighting and passes. Not the first turn he wanted. Now Andrew, these guys are playing so quickly, it's like speed racer out here. Alright, so we got a Squirtle, and he's going to play an N, wow. Even though Dan didn't play anything, he's just going to play the N. He's going for it. This is very risky. And they high five, alright. They both had terrible hands. Now, you gotta wonder at this point, does Andrew know that Dan doesn't play the double colorless? Because it was not in his deck list. Attaching the water there is a risky play. You know, you can walk into all sorts of stuff. But we'll see what Dan decides to do here. He's gonna put down a Landorus. And he's got a switch. And this is exactly what he wants to do at the start. He's going to Juniper for a fresh 7 cards, hoping to get a Trubbish out here at the very least. Now, he needs to get multiple of Trubbish out, because if he just gets 1 out here, and then Andrew has a water and a catcher, he can knock out the Trubbish. Which means he could get Blastoise into play and keep it there for a long time. So I think Dan realizes this. He's got a computer search in his hand. He's going to go for another Trubbish, I would think. So, yep. He's going to discard a Terrakin and a fighting against a second Trubbish out here. This is very, very, very important. Smart by Dan to use the computer search for that. He realizes that all it takes is a catcher and an energy, and he loses his Trubbish, he loses his ability to use Garbodor. But if you're Andrew, you should still definitely just go for that play. You should just go for a catcher, knock out the Trubbish this turn. That is your best option. But you could walk into a Mewtwo with a plus power. That's something that you have to worry about. So I don't really know. This is a tough spot for Andrew. Depends on how risky he wants to be with this. He puts a second fighting on the Mewtwo. He's gonna computer search. Gonna grab a catcher, taking the Trubbish. All right, so he's putting everything on the line here. This is gonna be a huge, huge, huge next turn for Dan. If he can knock out that Mewtwo, I think he'll win the game. If he can't, he opened the door up for Andrew to just kind of catcher his Trubbish, and maybe Garbodor won't even hit the field here. This is very nerve-wracking if you're Dan. And if you're Andrew, it's very nerve-wracking as well. You just kind of cross your fingers, hope your opponent does not have the means to knock out your Mewtwo this turn. So it's all coming down to this. Andrew, he's taking a risk, but he has to. This is just what the matchup dictates. He has to take a risk here. And let's see. He's asking Dan how many cards he has in his hand. I think Andrew was hoping to get another Mewtwo that turn so that he could maybe get that DCE and respond to an X-Ball from Dan. You know, if he gets an energy switch in a fighting. You know, most Mewtwo decks would have DCE. And I don't think Andrew would make this play if he didn't know that Dan doesn't have DC in the deck. But who knows? He probably just realizes that he needs to take risks, and that's exactly what he's doing. I'm not sure what's taking so long here. Oh, he has a rare candy Blastoise in hand. Oh, wow. This could be a huge turn. Oh my goodness, he could just rare candy the Blastoise and drop a bunch of energy down this turn. He's doing it. He was deciding whether or not to do it, and he did it. And he's going to drop 3 on the Keldeo. This is huge. He's going to rush in, and there's a Secret Sword. Wow. That's a big play. Now this is a huge turn for Dan if he can get a Garbodor out with the tool and catch her up. That Blastoise is going to charge for 3. He gets a Rocky Helmet. He has an Ultra Ball as well? Or that's not a Rocky Helmet. Never mind. That was just an Ultra Ball. That is a Rocky Helmet. Never mind. Don't see that very often. Garbodor with a Rocky Helmet. I don't think I'll ever see that again in my life. But that's what it is. And now Andrew is stuck. That Blastoise has a huge retreat cost. I believe it's 3, maybe 4, probably 3. And what can he do here besides just start attaching to it? He really just has to, or hope he hits a Super Scoop Up. He's going to Skyla. Maybe he's out of Super Scoop Ups. He had to discard 2 early on. Yep, he's going for Tropical Beach. And this is just Dan's way of slowing the game down. Saying, all right, you got to a very strong start. Now we're going to slow things down. The unfortunate thing for him is that he promoted Mewtwo instead of Landorus. If he would have promoted Landorus last turn, he could have gotten a first Hammerhead in there. And then he could just start hitting for 30 and 30. And that's really what you want to do here. You want to hit the Blastoise for 30, hit a bench Pokemon for 30, and just set up your knockouts for the rest of the game. Set it up so you can knock out everything with a 2 energy X-Ball for the rest of the game. You know, start hitting the Keldeo over and over and over. But he's going to attach again to the Landorus. I should probably just attach to the Mewtwo, I'm not sure. He's going to put it down a Terrakion and then Tropical Beach, drawing 5 cards. And, you know, even though Dan got the game to slow down, he's giving Andrew time to attach to his Blastoise. And all right, we're going to see an N here. We play a level ball, and he failed it, and he just played an N. So yeah, even though, I mean, he bought himself some time, he really needed to use this time to attack with Landorus to Hammerhead. Now, if you're Andrew, you got to be sure not to retreat your Blastoise. That would be a big mistake. You just kind of have to accept the fact that he's up there. And you, even when you get that 3rd energy on there, you do not retreat him. You just wait to attach again, and then you Hydro Pump. Because if you retreat, the same thing's going to happen. You're going to get catchered up again. So you need to just accept you got your utility out of your Blastoise. You got the Deluge. You got to attach all those energy to your Keldeo. That is all the advantage you needed. Now just accept that he's going to die. You can attach to him because you can threaten a knockout on Landorus with Hydro Pump and force your opponent to knock it out immediately. But otherwise, certainly do not retreat. That's the only thing I can stress. So we get another Trubbish from Dan. We'll see what he decides to do this turn. He could X-Ball for 80 if he really wanted to. He's going to Juniper away his hand. I think he wants to Hammerhead. Probably be his best choice. That Tropical Beach is coming in huge for Andrew, just letting him draw that many cards because he's not going to be able to attack for a while. He's not going to be able to really do anything. So having that beach out there, just every turn, he can just keep drawing cards so that he makes sure he gets to attach every single turn. Alright, so both players looking at the other's discard pile, seeing how many resources they have left. This is a very important thing to do during games. If you notice your opponent is very low on something, you could capitalize on it. Like if Andrew saw that Dan had 4 switches in the discard pile, he could just catch up the Garbodor and it would be stuck there. If Andrew notices there's 4 energy, or Dan notices there's 4 energy retrievals in Andrew's discard pile, he can know that maybe I could just run this guy out of energy. There's all sorts of stuff you have to keep in mind. See a heavy ball. It's probably going to grab a second Garbodor with that one. So yeah, that's the only Pokemon left in his deck. Looks like it. Might as well just take it. And no, he actually decides not to take it. It's a strange decision. Maybe he's got a Bianca or something. I don't know. Weird that he wouldn't take that. Alright, so we have X-Ball for 80 on the or on the Blastoise. This could be very tricky for Andrew. He might get his... Oh, there's a Super Scoop Up left. This is the flip of the game, folks. If he gets heads here, that Mewtwo's coming up to X-Ball. And this is just it. This is a big flip, and it's heads. Oh my god. That is... Oh man. If you're Dan, that is just the worst feeling in the pit of your stomach that someone just got heads on that. Wow, that is... I think that might be the game. That Mewtwo's up there with 3 energy now. Wow. I can't stress how huge that flip was. And Andrew's got to be feeling great about his position now. I guess this is one way to beat Garbodor with Blastoise. Super Scoop Up is pretty good. Coming in handy there. And what does Dan do from here? What does he even promote this turn? He's going to set up Terrakion. Now he could use Landorus to Land's Judgment, but then he loses all of his energy. The Keldeo knocks him out. But he's going to switch anyway. Play 2 plus powers and a Juniper. Not too sure what he's doing with this one. Oh, if he gets an energy, he could catch with that Keldeo and Land's Judgment for the knockout, but he missed the energy. How do you miss the energy off that Juniper? Oh, wow. That is so painful. I don't understand how you missed the energy there. Oh, man. Everything is going wrong for Dan at this point. That is unbelievable. I don't even know what to say about that one. He's going to catch up a Squirtle and just hope that Andrew does not have an energy to retreat. And do 30 and 30. They're actually going to do 50 and 30 to Keldeo. If Andrew, well, he knows Andrew has energy actually, because of the Super Scoop Up. So that was just kind of a play out of frustration probably. And you got to think this one is almost over now. Man, what a devastating play. You got to feel for Dan here. He had the game. I mean, he had a good shot to come back at this. He would have just knocked out the Keldeo, and then he could have knocked out the Mewtwo eventually. And now, ugh, wow. Just wild swings in this game, folks. That's what you get with EX Pokemon. and super scoop up, and I don't even know what else to say. Right, he's going to catch up Mewtwo here. We're going to see a fighting energy on the Mewtwo this turn, I would hope. I hope he gets an energy this turn. There's an Ultra Ball, and he's just going to... I guess he's not even going to grab anything. He's going to end. His deck is actually running really thin. But his game, let's see. I guess it depends on how many plus powers Dan has left. He's played 2. If he has 2 more, he can actually still win. He can X-Ball this turn. And then, let's see. Gonna have... Oh, he doesn't even have energy. Alright, no energy. And that is the game. Andrew Krekeler is going to move on to the finals with the Blastoise Keldeo deck. What a ridiculous series. I don't even know how to explain what just happened. He beats his toughest matchup, and he will move on to the finals. A Blastoise Keldeo deck. This is the deck everyone was worried about coming into the event. Everyone thought this was going to be the deck to beat, and it's just proving why. And that super scoop up. Man, he should have that frame somewhere. That just won him the game. So thanks for watching the top 4 guys. We're going to be back for the finals. That has to be a heartbreaking loss for Dan, but that's just the game sometimes. Can't always win them. Sometimes you just don't draw energy. Sometimes your opponent gets heads on super scoop up. So thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned. We'll have the finals coming up soon. I'm Pooka from Top Cut, and I'll see you for the finals.